Hi, my name's Ann Haber, and today I'm going to demonstrate the anatomy of the reproductive system. This is a model of a male pelvis, and so to get you oriented, these are the os coxae, left and right os coxae. Here is the pubic symphysis here. This is the urinary bladder here. And then anteriorly here, we can see the external genitals of the male. So the testes hang in a sac of skin, and you can maybe barely see the skin here, but that's called the scrotum. And they are suspended by a muscle here, and this muscle is a continuation of the fascia of the external oblique muscle. And so that muscle that extends down and surrounds the testis is called the cremaster muscle. And it will allow the testes to move up more towards the pelvis or down, depending on what the temperature is. Okay. Now, there's a collection of structures also associated with the testes, blood vessels, nerves, and the vas deferens. And so they are all part of what we would call the spermatic cord. So the spermatic cord in total is surrounded by the cremaster muscle. So this is the male sex organ, the penis. The very end of it is called the glands. It is a continuation of part of the erectile tissue called the corpus spongiosum. And we see the vas deferens here. And we also see the vas deferens coming up here. So the vas deferens is a continuation of the epididymis, and it comes up like this. Over here on the right side, it comes up like this, and it's going to end up going over the urinary bladder. We'll take a posterior view of that urinary bladder in a second. This is a lateral view of the male reproductive system. Let me get you oriented here. So this is the urinary bladder. And as you see, there's a ureter coming in over here, the right ureter entering into the urinary bladder. This is the testis, and the testis is housed within the scrotum. There is a system of tubing that comes out of the testis called the epididymis. This is the head and the body and the tail of the epididymis, which will then form this duct here, okay? Now, this duct has several different names. I call it the vas deferens. Other people call it the seminal duct. Other people call it the ductus deferens, okay? So the vas deferens comes up, loops its way over the pelvis, loops its way over the bladder, and we're going to take a posterior view of the vas deferens in a second. So it's making its way here, okay? And it is going to join with this structure called the seminal vesicle. And then they are going to form a duct together that will pass through the prostate gland. Here's another one of those ureters. Okay, so here's the right ureter. Here's the left ureter emptying into the urinary bladder. And then once again, we have the penis here and the glans penis here. In non-circumcised males, we can see the foreskin or the prepuce of the penis here, the foreskin or the prepuce of the glans penis here. Let's go ahead and take an interior view. So as we see, this is the urinary bladder, okay? And as I mentioned, the vas deferens and the seminal vesicle will come together to form a duct that passes through the prostate gland. So just inferior to the bladder is the prostate gland, okay? And this would be that duct I was referring to. and that's called the ejaculatory duct. A couple of reminders from the urinary system. The sphincter muscle that governs the internal urethral orifice is called the internal urethral sphincter. So the internal urethral orifice and the internal urethral sphincter are found in the same place. Okay, so that's a smooth muscle, involuntary sphincter right here. Okay, and the male urethra has 3 sections to it. Okay, so the first section passes through the prostate gland, so it's called the prostatic urethra. The next section passes through that urogenital diaphragm at the floor of the pelvis. How do you find the urogenital diaphragm? Find the pubic symphysis and move down, and you're there. So this section of the urethra right here, it's a pretty small section, is called the membranous urethra. And this is also where we find the external urethral sphincter in a male. Okay, so internal urethral sphincter is here. External urethral sphincter is here. So from the membranous urethra, we now pass into the urethra that's actually going to pass through the penis. And the penis is a cylindrical organ made of cylindrical sections of tissue that we call erectile tissue. So this erectile tissue here on either side of the urethra is called corpus spongiosum. And so therefore this urethra is often referred to as the spongy urethra. Okay, and as we mentioned before, the glands is kind of a continuation of the corpus spongiosum. There are 2 lateral cylinders of erectile tissue. So we're only seeing one here. We're only seeing the one that's on the right side. And those are called, in plural, corpora cavernosa. But right now I'm only pointing to the corpus cavernosum on the right side. Okay? So here is the testis, and I'm going to give you a better image of the testis. It has quite a bit of tubing in it that has certain names to it. So I'm going to go ahead and show this to you on a different model. This is a posterior view of a male bladder. So this is the bladder. And this is that vas deferens coming up and posteriorly. This is a ureter. This would be the left ureter. This would be the right ureter emptying into the urinary bladder. And the vas deferens enlarges into an ampulla. So this is called the ampulla of the vas deferens. And the ampulla of the vas deferens is going to join with a duct that's exiting this structure here, and this is the seminal vesicle. And it will add content to the seminal fluid. So those 2 things are going to converge and come together, and they are going to pass into the prostate gland and form the ejaculatory duct. And then the prostate gland is subsequently also going to add to the seminal fluid. This is an anterior view of the urinary bladder of a male and the male reproductive system. Let me get you oriented here. So this is the bladder with an anterior wall having been removed. And remember that trigone that we talked about in the urinary system. So it's like this triangular section of tissue at the base of the bladder, and it's formed by the entry of the ureters. So these are the urethral or the ureteric orifices and the internal urethral orifice. Okay, so that's the trigone. We just did a posterior view of the bladder, and we saw the ampulla of the vas deferens and the seminal vesicle, and they emptied out into the prostate gland. We would need to take this prostate gland apart in order to see the ejaculatory duct. The ejaculatory duct would empty into the prostatic urethra. This is the urogenital diaphragm, and this is the membranous urethra. Now, these are called the Cowper's glands, and they contribute mucus to the seminal fluid. And they empty out at the very beginning of the spongy urethra. And remember, the spongy urethra was named after the corpus spongiosum. So these are called the Cowper's glands or the bulbourethral glands. And then on either side of the spongy urethra, we have the erectile tissue called the corpora cavernosa in plural, and one section of that tissue would be the corpus cavernosum. And then we have the glans, penis, and then we have the external urethral orifice. Let's remember that the external urethral sphincter in the male is right here within the urogenital diaphragm. So this view of the Cowper's gland is an anterior view of the Cowper's gland. If we were to take a sagittal view, a sagittal section, we would see the Cowper's gland here emptying by way of a duct into the spongy urethra. It's pretty small, not real easy to see. All right, so this is a testis, and this is a testis. I'm going to go ahead and demonstrate off this one over here. So there is tissue that surrounds the testis. It's brown on this model, and is called tunica albuginea. And the tunica albuginea indents to form what we call lobules. And within those lobules, we have the seminiferous tubules. And the seminiferous tubules are where spermatogenesis or sperm production occurs. So sperm production is occurring throughout these seminiferous tubules. There are various other tubules that have various names within this system here, but they ultimately all are going to converge upon the tubules of the epididymis. So here's the head of the epididymis, the body, and the tail of the epididymis. And then the tail is going to become the vas deferens. And then the vas deferens, again, is going to loop its way up over the bladder, and at the very end of it, we will find the ampulla of the vas deferens. So we'll go ahead and take a look at the histology associated with these seminiferous tubules. Here we see a cross-section of the seminiferous tubules of a testis. This is the tubule itself. This is the lumen of the tubule. Here you can see mature spermatozoa, which arise from these spermatogenic cells that you can see are in various stages of meiosis. The spermatogenic cells are surrounded by these cells called nurse cells, or sometimes they're referred to as supporting cells. If we go external to the tubule itself, we see some cells outside the tubules, and these are connective tissue cells. And then we see these clusters of cells here, and those are the Leydig cells that are the cells that produce testosterone. This concludes the male reproductive system, where we looked at the male sex organs and genitals, glands, the urinary bladder, and the relationship of these structures to the male pelvis.